this video is about the Taurus child. Okay, so Taurus is an earth sign, and the earth signs are linked to the physical, right? Or what is tangible, or what is the outcome. Remember, earth is like something you could touch, right? You can feel, you can see it. It's not a theory, earth is there. So, very practical sign in general. Now, as a child, Taurus likes to follow the rules. And if you have a Taurus child that doesn't, there's probably something else going on there, like a moon, a very fiery moon sign, right? Or Aquarius moon or Aquarius rising, where they do things differently or something like that. If there's something that's different, they're not really good at following structure. Typically, there's some other stronger influence there, because for the most part, Taurus children are good at following rules. Here's why. Taurus is a very foundational sign in general. So that means that they are linked to stability and what literally makes sense and what is the foundation to things. And so Taurus children are really good at being able to know what's expected. They're good at knowing the rules, right? Now, whether they follow them or not, I think they know the rules. They know the expectations. They are typically not going to be your rebels, right? They're not going to be your ones, going against you. Now, again, kids go through different rebellious stages. I'm not saying that it's impossible. But Taurus, and even these Taurus moon kids, it's hard for them to let go of how they feel. Remember, they are Scorpio's opposite sign, and Scorpio and Taurus are both fixed signs. And so they're not like the cardinal signs are, they have the direction. They're the initiators. They know what the path is, right? And you have your mutable signs who kind of can go either way. Your mutable signs also can change if need be. They're flexible. They are, they can look at those opportunities and say, okay, well, I'll change my mind because this is more beneficial. So that might be like Virgo. It's not about Virgo, but I'm just saying, like, for instance, Virgo is another earth sign, but Virgo is mutable earth. So Virgo can change their mind if they analyze something enough to see like the benefit. Whereas Taurus trusts their own selves, just like a Scorpio would. But Scorpio was more with the water sign emotion. But Taurus trusts themselves and their understanding of their world. Remember, Taurus is linked to the physical, their world, their comfort, their stability. And so Taurus children can often create their own worlds where anything that doesn't fit within that has no place. They can be very, very stuck on certain ideas, very, very stuck on certain actions. And that's where they get this this idea of being stubborn. Right? Some of them can be very stubborn. It's harder to convince them, I guess I can say, than other students or other children. I'm saying students because I teach, so those came to mind. But children in general, one of my kids has a moon in Taurus. And so there's definitely that kind of stubbornness, but it can be turned into a positive with somebody who has conviction. Taurus is also linked to values and beliefs. And so a lot of Taurus children, they tend to have some type of belief system. And you just have to make sure that you are making sure they have a good belief system. You want to make sure they have a strong upbringing. You want to make sure that because whatever they believe is going to become their truth. They're not really gonna. It's not like Gemini can probably change their thoughts very easily, right? Because they're so curious and they learn more, and they want to do more, But Taurus, you just have to be really careful with how they are brought up, because whatever they're brought up is going to be their foundation, and they're going to latch onto that, and that's going to become their truth. And so, even though they're not a sign associated with emotions, they're very susceptible to whatever it is they're introduced to as their foundation, as their value system, or whatever the case may be. And as far as like Taurus, and Taurus is also ruled by, I didn't say this, Taurus is ruled by Venus, and Venus is, a lot of times linked to this love idea, right? Love and romance, but that is more the Libra influence of Venus's influence on Libra. Venus's influence on Taurus is more so the possessions and the values piece. But in general, as far as Taurus goes with people, they can be very loyal. They can be very giving. Now, if they're not very self-sacrificing. So Taurus children can sometimes come off as pretty stubborn. Okay, they are not like I said before, they're not really self-sacrificing. They are not pushovers, I would say. They can give a lot. They can be very generous. They're ruled by Venus, and Venus in possessions. And so Taurus does like to spend, but they can be cheap too. And so with children, you have to like teach them the value of money in the way where they're going to want to spend it on what they love. They're going to want what they want. As I said before, they can be kind of stubborn. And so your job is, again, I think with these Taurus energy kids, you want to teach them values. You want to, because they're fixed earth. It is going to be harder when they're older to try to instill all those values and morals and things like that. And you want to make sure they have a really strong foundation. And their temperament is pretty even. They don't tend to be rebellious in the sense, they're not rebellious just to be rebellious. Let me just say that. They don't do stuff just to do it. If a Taurus moon, Taurus rising, Taurus child is doing something because inside they really feel that makes sense. To them, it is practical. To them, it helps them navigate their world that they have created. Okay? But, I mean, they're not really difficult for the sake of being difficult. They're not really, you might have to break them out of their comfort zone, and so while they might follow the rules pretty well, they know what's established. They might do their chores because, hey, I know that that's expected of me. I'm just going to do it. I'm not even going to complain about it. But you do want to make sure you break them out of being too comfortable. And by that, I mean being afraid to go outside their comfort zone, being afraid to, like I said before, I think I said something similar about Virgo child. Remember, Virgo is mutable. So Virgo is more easily able to change if need be. More able to say, okay, well, this makes sense. I figured this out. Okay, I'm going to do this from now on. Taurus sometimes has a hard time releasing from what they have established as their truth, or, their habits. They're very good at routine. Another thing, so you want to make sure you sometimes teach them to be outside the box. Teach them to take some risks, not bad risks, but explore, expand their horizons, try new hobbies. Another thing I forgot to say, Venus is pretty lax. Venus is it's of like romance and stuff like that, but Venus is not a very fast mover. Venus is kind of just here, right? And you have Mars right here. You have Venus here. Maybe Pluto's more, undercover. Pluto is not as in your face. Pluto's like there, but the intensity of Pluto's here. My point is that Venus can cause, in some cases, there can be some laziness in some of these children. And by laziness, I mean, it's uncanny because they know the rules. Like, they're not absent-minded. They're not absent. Taurus knows the rules. They're good at structure. They're good at foundation. They know what the expectations are. They can repeat the rules to you. They can repeat the expectations. They're not really absent-minded. They know what's established, and that's why some of them can navigate life pretty well, because they know how the world works. And they pay attention and say, okay, this is how you do things. This is how you do things. This is how you do things. But sometimes they can be a little bit lazy. Venus likes comfort, all right? And sometimes Taurus energy children, especially when they're children, because they don't have the same focus as an adult, they can be pretty lazy. They don't want to do what you want them to do. Like I said, it's a contrast, right? Because sometimes you might have them some of them are going to do what they're supposed to do, right? Because they're supposed to do it. But then you have some of them who can thwart responsibility if they don't feel like doing it, right? Because if something does not fit in with what they want, it's very hard for them to go forth with that, right? And so I think that's just, I'm just going to wrap this up by just saying, like, that's the one last thing you want to teach them: responsibility, and not being too mellow, too laid back, and realizing they need a little bit more urgency. Like, get things done. Do it ahead of time. Try this. Why don't you do it this way? Why don't you, you don't want to clean your room up? Well, how about we clean your room up, because it's going to, so you kind of have to tap into their inner desires and wants, in a way where, like, you're not like dismissing what they want, but at the same time you're teaching them, like, no, you can't just do things on your own time all the time, Taurus. You actually have to, like, think about, how to make structure work for everybody. Taurus is really good at doing things at their own speed, but sometimes they don't realize that they have to actually join with the speed of everybody else. All right, and that is it for this video. Thank you for watching.